Hello, I'm Oral, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live with me. This man is a man that's always here. Whenever you call him, he's here. He's in the house. One and only President of Soualiga. How you doing, Mr. Brison?
Pretty good. Good morning.
Oh, thanks, all right?
Pretty good.
Soualiga has become such a big name now. Everybody's using Soualiga. You know this?
Yeah, I noticed it. As a matter of fact, I was in Aruba a couple of years ago, and I wandered past a restaurant called Soualiga Restaurant.
Yeah.
And I stopped. I said, "What do these guys know?"
And you're pro Soualiga.
Pro Soualiga Foundation.
Right, right. And you're president, what, over 3 years now, right?
Yeah, since it started in 2020, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, time goes so fast, huh?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
So, how are you thinking about things now? You're surprised the way things are going politically?
Well, yes, I am, because I did not ever believe that one country can go through so much political chaos as St. Martin is presently doing. As a matter of fact, I'm on the radio on Curacao constantly because,
Really?
yeah, Radio Mass, the biggest radio station down there. They call me constantly because the other islands cannot comprehend what is taking place on St. Martin, and they have the same electoral system and the same laws and
Really?
the same parliamentary system that as they do.
With one exception. One exception. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, that one exception.
Yes, I think I do.
All right?
Yes.
And that's the lynch law.
Yes, the lynch law.
That changed the whole dynamics in St. Martin. Because I love it in a way because it's true democracy.
It's fair.
But it has caused problems.
Well, it has created 15 kingmakers. But don't forget, even in Curacao and Aruba, once an MP sits, he is free to move wherever he wants. He can jump ship anytime they choose. They can do it in Aruba and Curacao also.
Yeah, they do it all over the world.
Yeah, but the repercussions down there are a little bit more severe than they are on St. Martin. Meaning that once you jump ship in Curacao or Aruba, the other parties tend to shun you. So you think twice about making a move like that because it will make it very difficult for you to move forward as a politician. On St. Martin, we have seen the same phenomena. Every single politician who has jumped ship has sunk straight to the bottom,
But
never to rise again.
The voters do that, not the parties.
Yes, the voters punish them.
Yeah. So
Every politician who has, look it back over, every politician who has jumped ship in the past, except one, they have sunk straight to the bottom.
So it's a dangerous thing to do.
Yes, a dangerous thing to do.
I know I'm going to come to the letter that you wrote to the Prime Minister and the main voting bureau, but I want to go back a little bit here.
Yes.
You saw what happened with this new government.
Yes, I
Everyone was predicting it will happen.
Yes,
but
it
not
was
so soon.
predictable. Yes. I always said that 2x4 coalition was like trying to go out and cross the seas, the stormy seas, in a cardboard raft.
You put it. It couldn't survive.
No, you can't cross no stormy seas in a cardboard raft.
But in what, 17 days?
Yeah.
It lasted?
Wow, somebody told me yesterday,
less.
17 days, exactly,
Wow.
from the start to the finish.
That's the shortest coalition in
The history of the Netherlands Antilles.
but it's shameful.
It is shameful, and you know, when they call me from Curacao, I am kind of embarrassed to have to say that I am living through and I am part of this chaos and confusion.
But you know, you as president of the Pro Soualiga Foundation in the last 4 years have been very involved in
Yeah, we have played our role as a non-governmental actor. Yes, we have been very active.
And they do listen to you, by the way.
No, they don't.
They don't. How you mean they don't? What make you say that? I thought they listened to you, man.
Well, we recommended one thing that, you know, we are a research-based foundation. We are not partial. We do not, 3 things we do not do. We do not engage in party politics. We do not talk about racism. We do not talk about independence. But our work is research-based. And one of the things, just like with this electoral law, the information we give them and tell them, hey, there's a solution, we discovered that our right to self-determination is not a regular right. It is what we called a Uskogen's right, a peremptory norm that floats above every other kind of law in the kingdom. It is even above the kingdom charter, our right to self-determination. And what does that entail, that right to self-determination? It entails 4 things. According to the kingdom in its written statement. So this information, we are research-based. We got this information from the kingdom. They told us that right to self-determination has 4 elements. It has the right to make political decisions about your political status, whether you want to be independent, whether you want to associate, or whether you want to integrate. That is one of the rights. The other right is the right to make your economic, social, and cultural policy. Those decisions about those policies are made by the people itself, not by others. And moreover, those decisions are made without any outside interference or pressure. That is what the right of self-determination means. So the right to make your own social, economic, and cultural policy decisions. Only the people of the territory are allowed to make those. They are made by the people themselves, not by others.
And you believe that?
Well, that is what the Dutch state told us. That is what the right of self-determination entails.
Right.
And those rights are a Juskogen's right, a peremptory right that precedes. Right when we saw that, we wrote Secretary van Huffelen and asked her, does this mean that our right to self-determination is above the Kingdom Charter? She said yes. If there's a conflict between the Kingdom Charter and those rights, your rights prevail. So that is part of the work we did. So now the politicians didn't listen to us, because if they had listened to us, the first thing they would have done would have screened the Kingdom Charter to see if it violates any of those particular rights. Does the Kingdom Charter violate any of our rights to make our own political, economic, social, and cultural decisions? And you'll find that...
What do you think as a jurist?
As a jurist? Oh, the Kingdom Charter violates that right plainly. 4 elements. For example, appointing a governor. That's a decision made in Holland. Yeah, and what they said, what does our right says? Those decisions are made by the people themselves, not by others.
But isn't the governor selected by the political party in power in St. Martin?
Yes, but he's appointed finally by the Dutch state. We have nothing to do with his appointment.
Just a selection then?
Yes, there's a selection. We could only select the guy who is going to administer the whipping. But his instructions are going to come from someone else. We do not give him any instructions.
You know,
then the next thing that violates our right to self-determination, which is the right to make your own decisions about your political, cultural, economic, and social policy, is Article 51 and 52. That says you can be placed under higher supervision. If I can make all those decisions, then it is obviously in conflict with those rights that you can be placed under higher supervision. And then the last one is Article 44, where you need permission to change your constitution or your legal system. Those, in my opinion, objectively looking at it from a prima facie approach, that Article 44 also violates that right that Holland says is above the constitution. It violates that right.
So it's contradiction to what they're saying.
Yes. So what I'm saying, the politicians, we give them that information, but they didn't take the second step, which was to screen, hire an expert. We have the expert, Dr. Rutzel Marta. Let him screen it and tell us whether or not these laws are in conflict.
He's from the University of Nelson Antilles, right?
He's a graduate of there, among others. But he's also, the most important thing, he's a member of the Kingdom Council of Advice on International Affairs.
So he's not longer associated with the University of Nelson?
No. He's
no.
As far as I know, he's not.
Oh, okay.
But he's a member of this Kingdom Committee that was established in Holland to advise the Dutch state on matters of international law.
He's very knowledgeable.
Yes, and why we recommended him is because the Dutch state said the people who are on this committee are people who have a proven track record in international law. That's why we picked him, because the Dutch state themselves said he has a proven track record in international law.
You recall the late Vance James Jr. talking about the elected governor?
Yes. He did. I did hear that phenomenon.
A lot of people-
It's known in America.
Yeah, I know, but for us, it was kind of like strange to a lot of people.
Yeah, it was strange, but it's a reflection of the principle that governor should be accountable to us and no one else. That is what that implies.
You think that is still possible?
I think a governor, if you read the declaration that Queen Wilhelmina made in 1943, when Holland was occupied by the Germans and she was hiding in London, or seeking refuge in London because they had to leave in Germany occupied Holland. From her seat in London, she said, we are going to reform the kingdom, and all the old colonial figures will no longer have place in the kingdom.
Didn't happen though.
No. And what is a governor? A governor is by uitstek, like I say in Dutch, a colonial figure. And there's actually no need for him. He's like a third wheel or an appendix. He's just there, but really and truly, there's no need for a governor.
Some people feel that we are being more colonized now than we were 20 years ago.
Well, that's why I told you the politicians do not listen to Soualiga, because if they had taken the information we gave them, which we got from the Dutch kingdom itself, these things are not what we invented. These are documents we researched and found this. And we wrote a letter to Van Huffelen and asked her about it, and she confirmed it, that our right to self-determination supersedes kingdom law. Once you have that, you are actually decolonized, because there's no way the kingdom could interfere with you anymore, because decisions are made by the people themselves, not by others.
So here we are. We made our own decision on the 11th of January this year.
Yes, we did.
And it don't look too good.
No, I will tell you the truth, it looks horrible. But like I told you again, from the outset, going into that 2x4 coalition, and I blame one particular politician most for doing that, it was a highly irresponsible undertaking. How do you expect to cross the stormy seas on a cardboard raft?
You see, blame one politician.
Yeah.
Some people say they blame the voters.
Well, the voters had spoken, and the politicians were now left to execute that decision. Yeah? And one particular politician, and I would call his name, I found that Dr. Mersalina, since he's the Prime Minister and the formateur, he should have been a little bit more circumspect in his decision on which coalition to join. It should have been obvious to him that a four-party coalition of four small parties cannot work. So that's why I say I blame him, because that was the wrong choice of coalition partners. Well, you see the results, 17 days in government and already one person jumped out.
And the thing about it is that the parties who are more adamant against jumping ship are the ones who attracted it.
Well,
especially the NA.
Well, that is a next issue, and that is what makes, as I told you, the chances of a guy like Olivier so realistic, because all the parties are involved in this debacle. All of them, the NA, the UP, the four members of the coalition, all of them are complicit in one sense or the other in this mess we are in.
So you're saying Olivier Arendell stand a chance?
A realistic chance, because he is the only politician who is not associated with this mess. Any candidate who wants to go into politics right now and joins any of the established candidate parties, it's like pouring new wine into old bottles. You are joining a party that was part of the problem.
But what do you think, what makes Olivier Arendell so popular? Because he's all over. It's like the most famous name in St. Martin.
Well, I'll tell you, I was speaking to a Curacao politician, and he told me when Trump started out first, he said, this is a crazy man. He said, but then he noticed that he was winning primary after primary after primary. He says, why is this guy winning? Why are the people voting for him? Why is Olivier so popular? Well, it might turn out that he is striking or telling the people, just like Trump, he is appealing to something in the people. And we know that it's true because I listened to a tape from Silveria where she blamed him single-handedly for basically the defeat of the NA or the loss of votes and seats in the NA.
Wow. So
that means they recognize him as a power player.
And it seems like political leaders and parties are afraid of him.
That's a next phenomenon. He attacked them and they never attack him. Normally, politicians are quick to go on the attack. They took him to court, which is a very lame response. But they never issued any rebuttals. They never attacked him. So he has that advantage where he can attack and all they can do is just retreat and say, please, don't do it anymore. Don't call me corrupt. Don't call me this. Don't call me that. But they do not counterattack him.
You know what surprised me, Mr. Brison, is that after the election, I was out walking, talking with people. I was surprised the amount of people who told me because of Olivier Arendell, they voted for a particular person. And some of them were civil servants. I couldn't understand that.
Well, now it comes back to what I just told you. That is what makes me believe that he stands a realistic chance, an outsider's chance of being elected. Because he has this following, and the key thing about him, you cannot associate him with the mess. He could blame all the others for the mess, but they can't blame him because he's not associated. So he has all of these built-in advantages for his candidacy. And he can attack, but they can't attack him because what has he done? He has never been in government, but they were in government.
But, you know, the thing is that when you look at the island today, poverty is very, very, very
real.
Yeah.
I was in town the other day, one morning having breakfast, and two people within a short time came by asking for money. Young people. Well, they might not have been the brightest bulbs in the class. I can't tell. They might have had mental problems that have led them into this particular state. I cannot tell. But I do know they were asking for money, they claim, to buy food. So but this is in the heart of Phillipsburg.
So you see, when you have people in poverty, when you have someone who's exposed in the corruption, because we have to be honest here, Olivier, when he started off, really exposed a lot of things that people heard about but didn't see the facts.
And what happened because of that? He attracted this huge following that you are talking about. So he has a built-in credibility factor. As off-kilter as he might appear, to certain people and to a certain class of people, which is a significant group, they see him as speaking truth to power.
I was at a function, and everyone at that function, or most people at that function, were just brushing him off. And there was this elderly guy. He said, "Be careful, you never know." He said, the way St. Martin is today, and the kind of people that he knows that are attracted to him, you never know. So you're right in a way.
He has an outsider's chance.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because the political parties in power gave him the opportunity now by creating this particular chaotic situation where they all look terrible.
And I think what happened too is Kevin Mingret ran about 2 or 3 times before, didn't do anything. And after he got associated with Olivier, he got into parliament.
Well, Olivier, I have seen several of his tapes where he claims that he is the one that got Mingret elected. It is because of him throwing his weight behind of Mingret.
Yeah.
He has said it openly.
But a lot of people believe it.
Well, and I could see the reason why. Because like you pointed out, before that he was just floundering. After Olivier joined him, he got over the hump.
So then he was the guy that brought down the government.
Yes, unfortunately. But it was obvious that from that coalition, somebody was going to jump because there were too many avenues to create frictions among either the coalition partners or within the parties themselves. And I understand that it's because of certain things that took place in the party. I believe him and the party leader were not on the same wavelength. He felt that he was being left out of certain decisions. He wasn't being treated right. And that is what created, amongst others, the motivation for him to jump.
And understand that the PFP is the only stable one. They're not going to rock the boat, do anything.
Yeah, what PFP has done very wisely is just kept very quiet. But their problem is guilt by association. You were part of this government.
So now there was a letter written, and I called Kevin Mingret. He didn't answer.
Yeah.
So I left a message, and he returned my call. And I said to him, "There's this letter signed by you. Is it real?" He said, "Yes, I signed it." And he told me on the phone, a private conversation, why he did what he did. And kind of felt sorry for him in a way, because whoever advised him to write that last letter was a nail in the coffin for him.
Yes. He sealed his own fate by that letter because it showed him up as a flake, somebody who's totally untrustworthy, unreliable, and potentially mentally unstable.
Yeah, so it's sad. So now that you've written a letter to the Prime Minister and the main voting bureau, did they respond to you?
No, I don't expect them to either. The reason is this. Since 2019, I was aware and I wrote a letter, but I never sent it out for some reason. Because they had this this LB, this decree, to dissolve Parliament, and it contained a phrase that set off every nerve in my body. And it says, "We are violating the Constitution, but we believe that there are important or serious reasons for us to violate the Constitution in order to comply with these laws." Now, as a jurist, I know there can never be any justification for violating the Constitution. So that was utter nonsense. So I wrote something out, and it hadn't basically the same information that I have now, because they were struggling mightily to figure out how do you fit the election date, the postulation date, and the sitting of the new parliament within 90 days when you have to meet all of these other legal requirements. They couldn't figure it out, and they were struggling. And I saw what the solution was. It was actually a very simple solution, right? And when I saw it again this time, because the first LB that was issued, it was exactly within the 90-day frame. Everything happened. But it did not leave any space for new parties to register. So the Central Voting Bureau protested and said, you're violating other people's right to participate. Right. You have to give them a chance to participate. So they went to Professor Van Rijn, Arjan Van Rijn. I know him. He was my professor of constitutional law at the UNA many years ago. And he wrote them a long advice, and he said this: there's only two ways to go. You either violate the Constitution, or you violate the electoral laws and the law on the registration of political parties. He said there's no way out. And we said, yes, there's a way out. There's a third way. And we showed it to them in that letter to the Prime Minister. So maybe they might feel kind of, I would say put off that private citizens can show them a solution that all their jurists and experts did not see. I took it yesterday to one of his chief legal advisors, and he saw it, and he basically hung his head.
You can't share the name?
Huh? No, I do not. I will not share his name. But when I showed it to him, he understood exactly. Right away, he said, oh my God, that was the solution. And I could hear the wheels in his brain turning. How the hell didn't I think of this?
So the dates will change?
Yes. Basically, the problem what they face is this. There is a piece of legislation which is the registration of political parties. And it claims that 6 weeks before the election, all new parties who want to participate must be registered within 6 weeks of the postulation date. And that created for them a huge dilemma, this extra 6 weeks. how to get around it, because the law said it. What the governor and the prime minister chose to do in the original LB of May the 21st, they ignored it.
But the governor's a lawyer. He should know better.
Well, his argument was this. He said, look, the Constitution says we must have this thing wrapped up in 90 days. If you have to take these 6 weeks into account, we can't get within the 90 days. And he said, I will not sign a LB that violates the Constitution. So they went along with it, and they say, you know what, we're going to close the door on new parties and just run with it as it is. But the Central Voting Bureau, in their protest of May the 23rd, that letter that they sent, they told him, no, if you lock out other new parties from participating, you are violating a fundamental democratic right of parties to be able to participate in this election. Yes, and that is a violation of people's rights. How you could tell new parties that you can't participate? So what they did, they came to a compromise, and when they cobbled it together, they put together an advice that was still 30 days beyond the 90 days. But then we showed them that you don't have to do none of those things. All you have to do is one simple thing, one simple move. Put the postulation date and the date that the LB goes into effect on the same date. So you take the LB date, which was the 27th of May, but you say, which always in law is the effect, this legislation goes into effect on that date. On normal procedure in law, you know it. Once they do that, all the problems are solved. With that particular move, you build in the 6 weeks for new parties to operate. Because you add in 22 or 21 days for them to register, new parties to register. You comply with the law that says that the postulation date must be 6 weeks after the cutoff date for new parties. You comply with that, and you comply with all the other ancillary dates, and you manage to do it within the 90-day period, and you do not have to violate the Constitution and put in your Lands Besluyt that yes, we violate the Constitution, but we didn't make it. It wasn't a light-hearted decision, and we have no other choice. And in this particular case, a violation of the Constitution is justified. Who gives any civil servant, any governor, any prime minister the authority, the right to violate our Constitution? Then you don't have to. But of course, they did not see that. But it's like, and that's why I saw an article saying it's an elegant solution. In mathematics, you have the word elegance. Elegance is referred to finding a simple solution to a complex problem. So you might go and see a mathematics problem, and the professor has a step laid out on the board that involves 10 or 15 different steps. And somebody comes by and they solve the same problem in 5 steps. That's an elegant solution.
So you're satisfied now?
No, I'm not.
Why you're not?
Because I still have an LB that has the same words in it. We violated the Constitution, but based on this and that, we feel we are justified in doing it, and we did not come to this decision lightheartedly. Yes, you came to it lightheartedly because you did not have to violate it.
Okay. In case you've just joined us, this is Oral Gibbs Live. My guest is Mr. Denicio Brison. He's president of Soualiga Foundation, and we're here speaking with him. When we come back, we're going to continue speaking with him on Facebook, YouTube, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio. Please stay with us.
We are vibrant, expressive, warm, and diverse. Together, we conquer, and now we expand into new horizons, giving you more of the best. Introducing our new Banco Matico Plus with wider acceptance, purchase protection, and enhanced security. Whether you're online, traveling, or in paradise, experience more with Windward Island Bank. Banco Matico Plus. More of the best.
My guest here on Oral Gibbs Live is jurist Mr. Denicio Brison. Mr. Brison is president of Soualiga Foundation, and you are either following us on Facebook, YouTube, or on Hot 99.9 FM radio. Mr. Denicio Brison, when you look at St. Martin today, you look at all of the different issues that you brought up. As a jurist, sometimes in government, a lot of things are done by the civil servants who have no real legal background and no one there to verify certain things. And I wonder if that was the case in this one.
With the decision in the LBs? Well, in honesty, I must say that they have been struggling with this problem since 2015. I have all the LBs where they exceeded the constitutional limit.
With the same language?
With the same language.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. And even to Professor Van Rijn had the same problem.
Really?
He wrote a long justification of why it is justified to violate the Constitution.
But
and also to violate the electoral ordinance, because in its advice to the governor, the Central Voting Bureau advised him the law requires 6 weeks between the cutoff date for new parties to register and postulation date. The law stipulates there must be a space between those two of 42 days, 6 weeks.
But I don't think
they shortened it to 2 weeks, took off 4 weeks. But where in the name of heaven does the Central Voting Bureau get the authority to violate a law? The law says 6 weeks. Why are you cutting it to 2 or 4 or whatever you want? You may not violate the law. But they did not understand, and that's why we send them the pro Soualiga formula, how to get along it. It's a formula. So it's just like mathematics. It is also mathematical in a certain sense, in that if you look at the amount of calculations you have to make, Article 59.2 says, within 90 days of the effective date of the LB, the new parliament must sit, within 90 days. Then when you go to the keys for ordering, the electoral law, it says that the postulation date must be 80 to 90 days before parliament sits. That language is kind of confusing, but all it means when you translate it into math, when you break it down, is that the postulation date and the date of the LB must be the same. That's the only way you're going to fit in that 90-day schedule.
So now...
but I don't want to get too technical because it is a technical subject.
So we've gone from July to August, election.
Yeah. And we send them the correct dates. It should be according to law. These are dates that they came to by violating the Constitution by 90 days, by shortening the period from 6 weeks to 2 weeks or whatever it is. So they were in there mangling and chopping away at laws left and right.
But they arrived at the same date that you...
No, they didn't arrive at the same date that we have. We have a different date. If you look at the date that we put in our letter, you will see the true date that the election has to be held. Which is between the election date, according to us, should be held on September the 16th.
And they're August.
Yeah. They're a whole month off the correct date.
Well, but September's a month, hurricane and everything. We went through that one time already. Yeah?
Yes, we did. But the fact is, by keeping to the law, you do not have to violate the Constitution. And if you find that it's in that particular situation, you just push the effective date up and you still stay, because the thing is, you have to stay within the effective date of the LB, the Landsbesluit, and 90 days beyond that. So all you do, you push the effective date up. So you say this LB goes into effect on October the 5th. So it allows you to pass through that hurricane period, and then you start counting from October the 5th, 90 days from that.
They don't think like that.
No, it's I must admit that it's not a piece of legislation that you use every day. So you don't have much time to reflect on it. And that could be one of the reasons too, that it comes into play when they dissolve Parliament, and then in a rush, within 2 days, they want to pass the LB. So that doesn't give them much time to reflect on it. So I must be honest to them that they did it in a rush.
Well, they need some constitutional lawyers there too.
Not only, but you need people who know how to interpret and understand the laws. And that's the problem with that legislation. It is a little bit complicated, but the solution is actually simple. But it requires a type of mathematical approach.
We should master that by now. Since then,
Yeah, up to now, they're still having that confusion with this phrase, we're violating the Constitution, but we're doing it because we feel we are justified, and all kind of nonsensical reasons. You are never justified for violating the Constitution. There can be no justification for it. And that is what Governor Bailey refused to do. So he said, I want to stay within that 90-day time frame because, and this information I got in Professor Van Rijn's advice, I learned that the governor did not want to surpass, did not want to violate the Constitution. So he made a choice. I will not violate the Constitution, but I will deny new parties the chance to participate. It came at that price. And they were shuffling with that and wrestling how to accommodate new parties and still stay within the 90-day time frame. And that is what the pro-Soualiga formula solves.
Now, some people are saying, how come Frankie Myers got in so quick? They don't realize that he had everything already there.
Yeah, that party was founded since 2019, as I saw.
Right.
But guess who also got is on the verge of getting his documents ready also? Olivier.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to participate. He wrote a letter to the electoral,
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and basically, from what I understand, is that he has basically everything in place to participate.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he's going to be a real wild card.
I can't wait to see the results.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him campaigning.
I think people are going to run, politicians.
He is going to make some of them jump out of the ring.
Let me tell you, it's so amazing. I heard a guy say to other fellow, I'm going home. He said, to do what? You're going home? Oh, he said, yeah, boy, I got to entertain myself with those videos from Olivier. It's amazing how people are into that thing, man.
Well, you see, it's a phenomenon of social media. So they can reach anybody they want. They don't need the regular channels. They could do it on their own. And most of the times he's doing it. This morning he did one in his bathroom. He does it when he's cooking. All kind of places and times he would send out these videos. But the problem is that it resonates among a certain segment of the population.
But I'm going to say something here now. A lot of people pretend. Those higher up who think they're better than everybody else.
The elite.
Yes, but you know what? I use a simple word for my people to understand. But I'll tell you one thing. They're watching and listening more than you and I.
They are paying
all those videos.
Because they recognize that they are dealing with a Trump-like phenomenon. He reminds me very much of Trump in 2016. When he came out first, everybody said, that crazy guy, he's going to... Yeah. But he was resonating among a certain segment of the population. Not among everyone,
right? Exactly.
But he was resonating among enough of them to get elected.
Well, so what else on your mind? You think you want to share with me, man? There's so many things going on in this country.
Well, I'm telling you right now, we're here talking, and I normally send out as a kind of joke to my friends and so forth, who's jumping ship today? Who's resigning from a party and who's leaving? So what is in my mind right now is when I leave you here and I go and look on my WhatsApp, who left which party to join which party? Because yesterday, for example, I got a letter from Tamara Leonard.
Right.
She announced that she is resigning from the UP party.
And she's going with the other party.
She didn't say which party she's going to join, but obviously she's going to move somewhere. But here is one politician resigning from the party just before the election. And I have to remind you of one thing. According to that new LB that came out, let me make sure what date they have on it. Let me take a quick look here. I'll tell you when it's postulation day. Because postulation day is right around the corner. So anybody thinking and getting involved, they have a very short time to make up their minds, because according to the latest LB, let me look at it here.
Well, it's going to be quite interesting because they only have a certain amount of time to get involved. That's why I was surprised when you mentioned that Olivier will be forming his political party.
Okay, according to the new LB, postulation date is, okay, they have some time still, is July the 2nd. So that gives people like Olivier, and the first LB postulation day was May the 31st.
So
But
basically
now
have a
the
month,
But now the electoral the Central Voting Bureau has given them that date, but the real date, according to our calculations, taking into account the laws without shortening any law, without chopping anything, without violating the Constitution, according to our calculation, the new postulation date should be, let me see here, I don't want to misspeak. Yeah, the new postulation date should be not July the 2nd, but it should actually be, the postulation date is July the 29th. That is the correct postulation date.
According to you.
Yes, if you do not want to violate the Constitution, you have to push it back to July the 29th, and that same day is the day that the LB becomes effective. That's the formula. You have to make the postulation date and the effective date the same. Then you avoid having to violate the Constitution.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what do you think about Frankie Myers getting back into the race? Because I think that changes everything now.
Well, the problem is he is going to run into Olivier's bossa, which you were here for the last 20 years. What did you do? Why should they vote for you? And it's the same principle, old wine into new bottles. These are recycled politicians, and facing a guy like Olivier, who has no record, he can criticize them and hammer them endlessly, and they have no response to that. You were there all of these years. Why should the voters vote for you when in the last 20 years when you were there, you did nothing that we can think of?
Yeah. It's going to be, I think most of these politicians right now are praying to God that he doesn't get involved.
Yeah, because if he gets involved, he's going to be like a wrecking...
It's going to be crazy, man.
He's going to be like a wrecking ball.
Wow. But in a way, we need a shake-up.
Yes, I do not know if that is the shake-up, but what I believe would be interesting is to see the type of candidates he attracts on his list. And it won't surprise me if a lot of them do their political calculus and recognize that by joining the established parties that are all part of the problem, they are tainting themselves right away. If you join whatever party that's there right now, that party was part of the problems. Why should voters go and elect you on a party that was part of the problem?
Yeah, the thing is that when you look at what's going on, the reason why I say it's going to be a shake-up in a way and a major impact, Simon, is that you look at the situation. You mentioned all those old politicians and parties, etc. People are listening to what Olivier have to say, a section of the community.
Well, you say a section. You just mentioned that even among the elites, they follow him. So
Yeah.
I would say a big cross-section of the population, from what I could tell, more or less, I would say that almost everybody on St. Martin, that's St. Martin, and French St. Martin, follows him to one degree or the other, or are aware of him.
That is true. That is true. But
I would say, I think about 100% of the population by now are aware of who he is.
Definitely. The thing is, that's one part of it. The other part is the other group who are really fanatic. I know of a group of people that are very fanatic. I mean, they really, really believe in this guy. And to me, I was surprised the amount of people that, and they're mostly
from the grassroots.
Yes. So we don't know what's going to happen, but should that whole thing change? Because it's sort of one-man party what happened there. This guy got, 298 votes? One man.
Those are protest votes. Those are people who are saying, I'm fed up with the system.
So I won't be surprised if someone like Olivier comes in and do similar, even more.
Well, if he comes with a good list with credible people, because I believe that anybody who does, any politician who does their calculus, especially new people, will realize that it will probably be better off to join him than to join an old-established party that has this horrible image.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, another thing too is the voters. I was speaking to someone that said to me, don't blame the politician. They said, blame the voters.
Well, what happened is that many times they have not had credible alternatives, viable alternatives. But now Olivier is coming as a totally new alternative. So he changes the whole calculus, because most of the politicians on the prior list were all politicians who had just been recycled through the system. But here now we have a totally new phenomenon. And if he can come in with a list of new people also like himself who are not associated and tainted with the past governments, who knows what could happen? Because then people will have a choice. They'll have a true alternative to what's being offered. And that is the danger of him. If he can offer an attractive slate of candidates who people can vote for and people can trust and people believe are credible and can get the job done, and they are new, not associated with the old regimes, who knows where this guy could end up?
You know, a lot of new people have caused so many confusion to themselves sometimes.
Yes, they have caused a lot of confusion. So he's going to have to make sure that he doesn't grab anybody to fill his list, but he should try to find credible people. And like I said, anyone who does objective evaluation would see that with his party, he probably stand a chance, because these old parties, especially if he's going to come at an aggressive campaign attacking them, they cannot withstand it because their record is there to see.
Now, there are 4 people in St. Martin that really sponsor political parties. I'm not going to call their names. They really manipulate and control elections on this island. I'm sure they're not going to want to see Olivier there, and they're not going to want to give him any money.
I could see that the power structure would not appreciate someone as unpredictable and uncontrollable as Olivier, because that is one of the elements that you have with these types of personalities like Donald Trump. They can be very
They're not controllable.
They can be very temperamental.
Yeah.
That's the word I was searching for. They can be very temperamental, and sometimes, many people are scared away from that type of personality.
So, but at the same time, I think we need to take the power back from these people who are using money to manipulate poor people to get their people into political office.
Well, on St. Martin, the phenomena of those envelopes stuffed with cash, you cannot discount the power of that particular phenomena. And the people with cash, to a certain degree, they control that particular, they control the political apparatus because of their ability to supply these envelopes with cash.
And I think what makes it so interesting now, because everything they threw at Olivier already, there's nothing left to throw at him. So, you see my point?
Yeah.
So because there's nothing left to throw at him, they can't come up with nothing else.
Well,
this is going to be quite interesting.
Now, look at what has been the focus of our interview and conversation for the last hour or so. Olivier. That's all we have been talking about. So that tells you that he is a phenomenon, because you and I are here sitting talking about him.
And before you came, you sent me a WhatsApp message. I said, wow, in a way.
What did it say?
You remember what it said?
You will read it?
It's okay. I'll have to put on my phone. But you remember it?
I can read it because I have it right here at hand.
I always turn my phone off, but it's quite interesting when you made that. I said, wow, Denicio is right. You have it?
Yeah, it says here, Olivier stands a real chance in the election People are fed up with the mess the present crop of elected Pauls have created. He is not associated with that mess. People might well see him as a viable option. Guy has an outsider's chance, like Trump in 2016. That's what I wrote.
And that coming from the president of Pro Soualiga Foundation, that surprised a lot of people. I wasn't surprised. You're right on that.
But I'm just, like I told you, we are an objective, non-political party. So that is what objectively, we of course can be wrong, but that is what from our watching the social media and the way he's trending and the impact he's having, that even to Silveri said that they lost the election because of this one guy. That tells me this guy has a lot of juice.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to send him a bill for this show.
This has been a constant promotion of Olivier Arendell. But it is in the context of the election, and he is the only, how should I say, attractive alternative that we can talk about. We want to talk about Dr. Messalina, you want to talk about Sarah, you want to talk about PFP, you want to talk about the Now Party, you're finished in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You want to talk about National Alliance, about the UP, you finish in a minute and a half. And all you can say about them is, these were the guys who are associated with the chaos on St. Martin right now. And then it's finished.
But a lot of people that I know are happy with this coalition and with Dr. Messalina as the new prime minister. They were happy.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I was intrigued by him as a prime minister. And I'll tell you the reason why. He's a very charismatic guy. He's very likable. And he's obviously a guy who has some kind of standing. He's a surgeon, a doctor and a surgeon. So that will give you an automatic built-in confidence in this particular individual. But when he got into office and the candidates on his list issued a report, a blistering attack on him, blasting his management of the party, I was kind of taken aback. I said, I didn't know the doc had these kind of problems. Then, when was it? Sunday, I heard Rolex Jr. on the radio. And according to him, and if what I heard is true, the doc treated the guy in a disgraceful way. Then the way this situation was handled with installing the new MPs, the 2 new MPs, that one had me totally flummoxed. And it is just like the problem with the voting date and the LBs, with all those violating the Constitution.
Yeah.
This whole situation with installing these 2 MPs, that was totally uncalled for. It had me scratching my head. What is the problem? When you had a majority of 8, you could have installed them without depending on. So why did you wait until you lost the majority to go and depend on the opposition to give you a quorum? Why didn't you do that when you had your 8 seats? I heard one of the candidates saying, if we had 8 and we installed 2 others, we'll have 10 candidates, 10
No,
MPs.
you all do everything at the same time.
Yeah, do it so, but that is how the parliament is dissolved.
Yeah.
It is dissolved when a new one sits. Simultaneous transaction, we know it all the time. You resigning simultaneously.
But Sarah should have known that. But
So that's why I found that thing left me so perplexed.
Yeah, I know. It was just...
That confusion with back and forth, they had it in their hands to install those MPs. They have 8 seats.
Yeah.
Why did you wait? You could have done a simultaneous transaction, install the 2 new ones at the same time as the two guys resigned.
And took so long to form the government. I mean, to really take office. That again.
Oh, that was a next.
That was unbelievable.
Up to now, there are only 5 ministers installed. And that puts the doc in a very awkward position because he's caught in a tug of war between Christopher Emmanuel and Rayton Peterson, who do not want to retract their candidacies, and who the governor says, under no conditions will I sign the LBs to install these guys. And I believe that the governor is acting on higher orders from Holland. There is something the Dutch state knows about Christopher and Ray that caused them to tell the governor, we do not want to see these 2 guys as ministers. But instead of retracting, they are staying there and making the doc look foolish because they're here with a cabinet with 5 ministers. he can't get two
Can't move,
installed,
yeah.
and he cannot get them to resign. So he can put the people who can be installed. So it looks very chaotic.
So they're now a caretaker government.
Yeah, well, right now they are a caretaker government, and it wouldn't surprise me of someplace along the line, a new coalition or a new group of 8 MPs does not give him a vote of no confidence and send him home.
You think that can happen? Still?
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
Because once it send him home, it opens the door to form an interim government. And people may look at the opportunity, but I could be a minister for 2 or 3 months. You know, that's always attractive.
You never know what can happen.
You never know.
Well, Mr. Brison, always a pleasure having you. Anything you want to add closing?
Well, all I can tell them, I could say is this. We are going through, like I said in Curacao, we are going through a dramatic time. Fasten your seatbelt, hold on tight, watch.
Well, I always say, I pray for the best for St. Martin. We need to make sure this time it goes well.
Well, I'll tell you one last thing, that our politicians are flirting with higher supervision being imposed by the Dutch kingdom. And Van Rijn warned about that in the advice he gave. They are flirting, they are inviting, they are begging the House of Martin placed under higher supervision with this type of foolishness.
But I think the Dutch government don't want to go there right now.
They don't want to, but on the other hand, if the situation continues, it might force their hand, because I understand that the situation in St. Martin has drawn even the attention of the BBC. Yeah. This situation has drawn the attention internationally.
Yeah, internationally.
And Holland is always very protective about its image, because the question is this chaos going on there, isn't this part of your kingdom? So that, could also play a factor into into higher supervision. But they are flirting. If they allow this type of chaos to continue, they will be flirting they will be begging for higher supervision.
Well, Mr. Brison, again, thank you. Much success, all right?
Thank you.
Mr. Denicio Brison, jurist, he's President Pro Soualiga Foundation here in St. Martin. You've been watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or listening to us on Hot 99.9 FM radio. See you next time. Take care. Bye.